What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. There is something deeply revealing about the way Russia kept trying to retake Kupiansk. Not just fight for it, not just attack it, but obsess over it. Pour men into it, pour bombs into it, crawl through pipes for it, lie about it on television, declare it captured, recaptured, liberated, reliberated, and then quietly forget about it when the reality shows up. Kupiansk is not just another frontline town anymore. It has become a symbol of everything that has rotten inside Russia's war machine. Desperation disguised as strategy, sacrifice without a purpose, and propaganda that matters more than human lives. Back in December, Russian forces have escalated their operations around Kupiansk to a level that borders with total desperation for at least some kind of victory. Airstrikes doubled, infantry assaults resumed, and when none of that worked, they went back to one of the most grotesque tactics of this war, something what we've already seen, kinda work in the past, but only once. Basically sending soldiers to underground pipelines like expendable cargo, hoping to pop up behind Ukrainian lines and pretend it's still 1943. Well, it didn't work this time. It didn't even come close. Dozens were eliminated the moment they surfaced, dozens didn't even leave the pipe, and yet Moscow keeps repeating the same moves like a gambler who refuses to leave the table because admitting defeat, for some reason, would be worse than losing absolutely everything. So today, let's break down what's actually happening around Kupiansk, why Russia is throwing bodies into pipes, why Ukrainian forces are steadily clearing the city while Moscow pretends victory already happened, and why, in the end, this entire battle exposes a brutal truth. That the war is no longer about territory, security, or even conquest. It's about images, headlines, and the illusion of control. If you listen to Russian state media, the situation around Kupiansk sounds almost like triumphant. Precision strikes, tactical pressure, controlled advances, but the reality on the ground tells a very different story. Back in December, according to Ukrainian military spokespeople, Russia has sharply increased its use of guided aerial bombs in the sector, nearly doubling airstrikes intensity in just under 24 hours.
Ukrainian forces struck with a prepared counter-offensive. They liberated the Lovilaini neighborhood, cut off the Russian supply line, and trapped at least 200 invaders. The Russian side reportedly lost over 1,000 soldiers during their failed offensive.
And that alone tells you everything you need to know. Because air power is what Russia leans on when nothing else works. This is their last case scenario, just bomb everything and that's it. When infantry cannot advance without being wiped out, when armor gets shredded by drones, when command structures collapse under pressure, once again, that's it, just bomb the problem, flatten it. Hope that the enemy gets too tired before you do. That is the logic. Except it has not worked here either. Kupiansk has already seen this movie. In 2022, Russian forces claimed the city was secure, only to lose it during Ukraine's counteroffensive of Kharkov. Since then, Moscow has been desperate to reverse that humiliation, not because Kupiansk itself is some strategic miracle, but because losing it once already punctured the myth of Russian inevitability. Retaking it would look good on television, losing it again would look absolutely catastrophic. So the Kremlin keeps pushing. Infantry attacks backed by bombs, small assault groups probing Ukrainian lines, attempts to infiltrate between positions, and when even that failed, they started improvising in ways that reveal just how thin their options have become. Which brings us to the pipelines. The actual pipelines, not metaphoric ones. Let's talk about them in our next chapter. At some point, Russian commanders decided that sending soldiers through abandoned gas pipelines was a viable tactic. The idea was simple and ancient. Avoid detection, bypass drones, emerge behind enemy lines, and create chaos. In theory, it sounds clever, quote-unquote. Well, in practice, it's a death sentence. Near Kupiansk, Russian troops attempted exactly that, again, using the Soyuz gas pipeline, and around 50 soldiers tried to move towards Ukrainian positions, hoping to accumulate forces and stage an assault from the rear. What they did not account for, however, is that Ukrainian forces are not fighting blind. The pipeline was under constant surveillance, because the moment Russian soldiers emerged, they were hit directly. No build-up, no confusion, no chaos like Russian commanders hoped, just immediate destruction. At least 40 of them reportedly were eliminated or incapacitated on the spot. And this was not some isolated incident, no, it happened in the past already. Ukrainian units had already adapted to these tactics months ago. Pipelines are watched and monitored, obviously. The surprise factor is gone. It only worked once, kinda. What remains now is a slow, suffocating crawl through darkness, fear and panic, followed by death the moment daylight hits. Independent Russian media has already shown what these pipeline operations look like from the inside. Soldiers suffocating, losing their minds, eliminating themselves in panic, banging against steel walls in pure horror. I mean, this is not heroism, just industrial-scale cruelty, insanity, inflicted on men who were promised bonuses and glory and instead just got buried alive for a tactical fantasy. I mean, come on. And yet Moscow keeps using this tactic. Why? Because it's cheap. Because it avoids public mobilization. And because dead men and pipes do not tell stories and do not protest. But still, some Russian soldiers reportedly did infiltrate Kupiansk and gained some kind of foothold there. Videos are being taken, sent to their commanders, and then, well, that's pretty much it. It looks like that was the goal. With only one big problem is how to now escape the city, since Ukrainians were able to encircle it and start clearing it out from the remaining Russians. So, what was the purpose then, once again? Let's talk about it in our next chapters. While Russian commanders are sending troops underground, Ukrainian forces are doing something far less dramatic and far more effective. Methodically clearing Kupiansk. District by district, basement by basement, Ukrainian infantry, National Guard, units, scouts and special forces have been advancing steadily, encountering limited or non-resistance in many areas. Not because the Russians are holding back, but because there is barely anyone left to resist. According to Ukrainian military assessments, fewer than 100 Russian soldiers remain inside Kupiansk at the moment of me recording this video. Some people estimate put this number closer to 60 or 70. These people are scattered, isolated, holed up in basements and ruined buildings, short on food, short on ammunition, cold, tired, and increasingly irrelevant. The irony is brutal. Russian state media proudly declared Kupiansk liberated back in November. Putin himself appeared on television in a military uniform, smiling as generals assured him that the city was firmly 100% under Russian control, but independent media quickly exposed the claim as fiction. And now, Ukrainian troops already are now walking through neighborhoods with no return fire, clearing structures while Russian forces hide or surrender. Even Zelensky himself, unlike Putin, even visited the city and recorded the address to the nation. So some of these remaining Russian soldiers are not even Russian. Ukrainian units have captured foreign mercenaries, including, believe it or not, a Cuban man who said that he was tricked into signing a military contract after being arrested as an illegal immigrant in Moscow. Others were found sleeping in storage rooms, hiding in markets, or attempting to blend in until discovered by radio intercepts. This is not an army executing a strategic withdrawal. This is a force dissolving in place. So, why does Russia keep fighting for Kupiansk if it is clearly losing? Well, the answer is painfully simple. Propaganda that always demands more. The Kremlin does not need to actually hold Kupiansk. It needed just footage here and there, occasional photos and videos, headlines from time to time to remind people that war is still active, maps colored in red. A brief moment on state television where anchors could declare victory and just move on. Once that material exists, reality becomes optional. Ukrainian forces retaking the city later does not erase the archive. The clips are already being saved, ready to be reused whenever morale needs a boost or a narrative needs patching. That is precisely why Russian troops inside Kupiansk were reportedly resupplied not just with food, if food at all, but guess what? With flags. Literal flags. Symbols to wave so drones could capture images suggesting control. Not enough colors to survive, but enough fabric to fake sovereignty. This is what the war has become. Not a struggle for land, but a production line for illusions. Towns are liberated and abandoned immediately. Soldiers die so a 2-minute segment can run on Slavy of life. Families receive coffins while the state recycles victory montages. And when Kupiansk is finally fully cleared, Moscow will pretend it was never important in the first place. Like, why would we need Kupiansk? It's just one city out of hundreds in Ukraine. There are much more other important cities, they're gonna say. So, was it all for nothing? That is the question that hangs over Kupiansk like smoke over ruined buildings. thousands of men being eliminated or injured, entire units wiped out, soldiers suffocating in pipelines. Also, the Kremlin could say once that the city was theirs. Just imagine hearing this as a widow or a mother or a child who lost a father. Imagine realizing that the life taken was not even traded for land, security or peace, but for a few reusable propaganda clips and a lie that did not even last a month. Kupiansk exposes the core truth of Putin's war. It's not about Ukraine, it's not even about NATO, it's not even about a victory anymore. It's just about power stained through fear and fiction. And the moment enough people inside Russia understand that their loved ones are being spent not for a future, but for television graphics, something will break, hopefully sooner than later. History shows us that lies can hold for a long time at some point, but they do not hold forever. Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support our work and join our private Telegram group, you can do so by becoming Patreon or YouTube channel member. You will receive an invitation link immediately. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway.